Thank you, James. I'd rather stay here. Welcome, everybody, dear colleagues and friends. Those of you who took part in the FIPP Congress in Toronto 2 years ago might perhaps remember that at the end of our deliberation, I, in the name of Polish press publishers, invited everyone to Warsaw for the next FIPP Congress. I even showed a short film encouraging people to visit Poland's capital. Although London is now sometimes called Little Warsaw due to this several 100,000 strong Polish community here, this wonderful place is not the one we chose 2 years ago. For the first time in history, the FIPP Congress has had to change venue. The rumors that this was so that we could meet with our English friends for the last time before Brexit is untrue. So what happened in reality? Allow me to give you a brief explanation because this has much to do with the social, political, and cultural context in which we commence our deliberations today. In Warsaw, we were, as is usual at FIPP Congress, to have discussed the technological and business challenges facing magazines publishers and to have compared the experience and ideas. Polish publishers also saw an opportunity to recount the spectacular achievements of our media over the quarter century since the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. Unfortunately, politics has erupted into our lives, and in a very unfriendly fashion at that. In late 2015, the Polish general election was won with a minimal majority of votes by a populist party with the exalted name Law and Justice. I'm not here to talk about Polish politics, although I happen to edit Poland's largest opinion weekly, which is called Polityka. But if you can imagine a political confection made up of bits of Marine Le Pen, Geert Wilders, Nigel Farage, Viktor Orban, and Donald Trump, well, this is what we have got here. It's not a problem that we question the democratic mandate, but rather that they are questioning our democratic rights, which had been written down once and for all, it had seemed, in our constitution. One of the first targets of the new authorities became the free independent media. Public radio and television, which were very strong in Poland, were taken under the direct control of the government and transformed into propaganda mouthpieces, which for people of my generation bring to mind the very worst communist model. Almost 300 journalists and commentators associated with the public media were dismissed or had to leave. The private opposition media were immediately deprived of all advertising from large state treasury-owned companies, while government entities received instruction to cancel subscriptions to hostile titles, which also had an impact on my weekly. Officials refused to impart information. But the most dangerous thing is an action to, as it was put, re-Polonize the media, or deconcentration, as it is presently called. In other words, a statutory limitation of the presence of foreign capital in the Polish media. In practice, this entails attempts by the state at takeovers of the original press, in particular, where German capital has a considerable stake. Perhaps also the largest independent television station, which belongs to an American concern. The government is repeating the road taken in Hungary by its political friend Viktor Orban, where friendly oligarchs were used to take over all oppositional press titles, including the important Népszabadság. Government attacks on independent media, but also on the judiciary, the educational system, women's rights, the breaking of the constitution, these have all called for great resistance, with demonstration by many hundreds of thousands of people continuing to take place. As I understand things, it is thus no surprise that in this situation the FIPP Management Board sought to avoid organizational difficulties or even indirect legitimation of the new Polish authorities, hence the difficult decision to transfer the Congress to London. To those of you who think that in speaking of Poland, I'm describing some sort of strange paroxysm on the part of the new and immature democracies, I would like to warn, no liberal democracy is inoculated against the virus of populism or resistant to rhetoric along the lines of make our country great again, put our nation first, bring our business back home, let's build a border wall against foreigners. We all know these expressions. Today's populism is a panic reply to globalization, which of course brings to humanity not only great benefits but also threats. Loss of jobs, human migration, degradation of the natural environment, weakening of national identity, secularization, rejection of state sovereignty, changes to culture and customs, and above all, international terrorism. People are ready to surrender freedom for an illusion of security. This mood, which we feel more strongly than 2 years ago, is extremely dangerous for media freedom. And this does not just concern the countries ruled by authoritarian, which have got us used to their lack of respect for independent media. The most recent global report on media freedom, presented by Reporters Without Borders, indicates drastic falls in all respective indices. It shows that even in countries with such consolidated democratic traditions as Germany, Italy, or Finland, new anti-terrorist regulations and new prerogatives for the special forces may excessively breach rules of freedom of speech and privacy. So, should we not ask for whom the bell tolls? But dangers for the free media, familiar to us, don't just flow from the world of politics. As publishers, we are all part of a great digital revolution, even an avant-garde. We will be talking over the coming 2 days about the opportunities and possibilities that this creates for our business. But we also know that there is a dark side to the internet and social media. We know that for years we have sinned through excessive optimism and enthusiasm. Finally, we are starting to speak about what the new media are doing with us, our children, our society, our democracy. Let us just for a moment recall some of the new concepts and words that have gone into circulation over the last 2 years since Toronto. Post-truth, the word of the year according to the Oxford Dictionary. Fake news or alternative facts, already a lexical invention for Trump's team. Infotainment, the best term for the mixture of information and entertainment that has become our news. Trolls and bots, the new generation of journalists. The algorithm, successor to the editor and publisher. Twitter, a tool for the practice of politics. Information bubbles, a description for the isolated communication words in which we are imprisoned. Content piracy, the attractive business model. It's not enough to be aware that thanks to a technological revolution we have found ourselves in a new reality, one which we don't completely understand and which is outpacing and outgrowing us. But we are not here to complain. As people in a creative business, we have become used to coping, irrespective of circumstances. But new challenges require new tools. This is also a challenge for FIPP, which cannot now just be a professional platform for the exchange of experiences. Allow me to take advantage of the privilege of honorary session chairman to share a few obvious suggestions. So we must demand that the authorities protect the free media market and equal rights thereon for all publishers. We must promote solutions supporting rational copyright protection in digital world and sponsor educational and research programs into the new media. We must protect quality journalism. In case of need, we should speak out in defense of media freedom and journalist freedom in every country where they are under threat, show solidarity, put pressure on policymakers, perhaps organize aid. Some might say that this is not our duty and that it goes beyond the framework of this organization. Okay, but we have all chosen a very particular profession. Its foundations are built on the same values everywhere in the world. Respect for the facts, social responsibility and credibility, freedom of opinion. As a journalist and publisher who has spent a significant part of his life in conditions of lack of freedom, a world of lies, propaganda, censorship, the authoritarian power of jumped-up bureaucrats, and who now observes how this past is returning, I know that freedom is valuable and delicate. It's not given once and for all or to be taken for granted. It must constantly be discovered anew and secured. So my keynote for the opening of this Congress is straightforward. Being a publisher is more than simply business. Freedom is our business. So welcome to London and welcome to Warsaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.